if we don't fill our mind with something that we care about, the society is going to fix our mind on something that we care less about. And if we don't wrap up our mind around something that is so important to us, around something that is so meaningful to us, our society is going to find something to wrap our mind on to distract us from doing something that we want to do. There's no point in time whereby you will live and not think about something, because your mind doesn't want vacuum. Your mind doesn't want to be idle at any point in time. So if you don't fill your mind with that which you want, if you don't saturate your mind with that which you want, then the society is going to help you fill it up, simply because your mind cannot entertain vacuum. And that can be made possible by leveraging the power of imagination. When you look around you, anything that is being created that you can feel and touch was first of all created in the mind of someone before it became a reality in the world. And that was made possible by the power of imagination. And what then is that imagination? According to Albert Einstein, he says that imagination is a preview of life coming attraction. And that can be simply put as a preview of the kind of life you want, a preview of the kind of future you want, a preview of the kind of result that you want to create. That is imagination. Imagination is the habitual picturing of the future that you want to be featured in. Imagination is you seeing that which you want to create before it is being created. When you look back at the account of creation in the Bible, you will see that what God has done, the process of creating the earth, was the power of imagination that he leveraged on. Before the heaven and earth could be created, God has to imagine it how it's going to be. God has to plan it out. God didn't just wake up one day and say, okay, let's just start the whole process. God has to imagine it. Because based on the account of creation, we were told that in the beginning, the earth was formless. That is, the world was full of void. And God was surrounded by darkness. Darkness was all over the place. God was being surrounded by darkness. There was a void, there was a vacuum, and for that vacuum to go away, something has to fill it. For that darkness that was surrounding God to go, something has to fill it up. So God has to come up with the idea of light in order to suppress or displace the darkness that was around the vacuum. And that can be made possible through the power of imagination that God engaged. So also, for the fact that we were created in the image of God, to be like Him and to create things just like Him, before we can start the process of creating anything that we want to create, we must first of all imagine that which we want to create. For the fact that we were created in the image of God, as a co-creator with Him, we must learn how to imagine things and then create things. That is to say that the essence of you and I being here is not just to wake up every day and be worshiping God and praising Him alone. There's a place for that. But we should not do that to a point of forgetting the fact that we were created to create things just as God. And to create things just like God, that has to start with imagining things that we want to create. For God to create the heaven and earth, He has to first of all imagine the kind of things that He wants to create. Else, He won't go to the business or go through the process of creating the heaven and earth. He has to first of all imagine the kind of things. Imagine the kind of living things and non-living things that He is going to create. And that can be made possible by the power of imagination, which we are going to be talking about today. So if you are new to this channel, or if you are new to this movement of self-reliance, I implore you to subscribe to the channel so that you can follow up with every update that we are putting up in this channel. And then join our WhatsApp channel so that you can be updated with the kind of things that we are putting in, information as to how to navigate the journey of self-reliance. So God bless you for that. So now let's pay attention to what we have before us today. So what we are discussing is the power of imagination. We have to emulate God by seeing ourselves as someone that was created in His own image. And being created in His image, we should also be imagining things, to create things, not just to worship Him. So to make that happen, to make that possible, there are things that we need to put in place for that to be made possible. So one of those things that must be done in order to effectively put to work the power of imagination is to first of all know that there is a higher power that we are all connected to. There is a power that is available to aid us in creating and becoming anything we want to be in this world. And that higher power is God. We have to know, acknowledge, and believe that there's a power. There's a higher power that we are all connected to. You might not necessarily call Him God, because God is not suffering from low self-esteem. Whether you call Him God or not, He doesn't have any problem with that. That is why you see some people calling God universe, you see some people calling God source, you see some people calling God energy. Like for example, in one of the documentaries that Elon Musk did, they asked him as to whether he believes in God. He said yes, that he believes that there's a power in the universe that we are all connected to. In his own case, he called God a universe, which I see nothing bad in it, because God is not suffering from low self-esteem that you must call Him by His title. You must call Him God before He can answer you. No. So far as you believe that there is God, you believe, not just believe with your mouth, you believe with your subconscious mind, because Anything that you believe that has not been registered in your subconscious mind cannot work. So far as you believe in your subconscious mind that there is God and that there is a power within you that you are connected to, which is God or higher power, according to however you may want to call him. So far as you believe that there's a higher power that we are all connected to, God doesn't have any business as to whether you call him God or not. Whether you call him universe or you call him source, you call him energy. So far as you believe that there's a power that you can leverage on to create anything that you want to create, God is going to answer you. God is going to be connected to you and is going to aid you in creating that which you want to create. So the very first thing you need to exercise the power of imagination is to know that God exists, and also to acknowledge that God has all the power, and that power has been within, has been put, that power has been deposited in you. All you have to do is to believe that that power is there to aid you in creating the kind of life you want. So that's the first point, or first thing we need to notice or to get registered in our mind in order to use the power of imagination. So the second thing we need to adhere to make use of the power of imagination to work for us is to know that which we are working towards. That is, to know what we want. The idea of what you want to create, what you want to make happen, the kind of future you want, that idea has to register in your mind for God to work with it. It is so unfortunate that a lot of us are going around, wandering around without the idea of what we want to create, without the idea of the kind of future we want to create, without the idea of how we want to be remembered in the world when we are no longer in existence. So we have to know we have to vividly identify that which we want to create, which Robert Greene called our life task. You have to know your life task. Like, this is what I want to create. This is what I want to create on behalf of God, as an extension of God, because I told you that we are all co-creators with God. God created us to create things, and for us to be able to create those things, we have to have an idea of that which we want to create. So in leveraging the power of imagination, it is so crucial for us to know that which we want to create, because without that we'll just be roaming around the circle, which is not good. It's not good for us to move around the world without the idea of that which we want to create. So we have to know it. So that is the second thing we need to know in order to put the idea of or the power of imagination to work. We must know what we want. So the third thing is to write it down. Write that which you want. Write it down. The idea you have written down is much more easier to accomplish than the idea that you are just roaming about in your head, that you don't put it down. You have to write it down. In his book, Success is Who You Are by Pastor Sam Adeyemi, this book, Success is Who You Are by Sam Adeyemi, he pointed out something very crucial to us, which I want to share with us. He said that when he wanted to buy his first car, he had a lot of things that he wanted to do at that point. but he also needs the car very urgent in order to facilitate his movement in ministry. So he had to write the car that he wants. He had to write it down on paper. Not just write the name of the car, he wrote the name of the car plus the picture of the car, and then he posted it everywhere in his room, both in the bathroom and in the bedroom. Everywhere he posted the picture of that car. Whenever he wakes up, the first thing he will look at is that car. So that idea of the car that he wants to buy got registered in his mind, to the point that even in his dream he could see that car. And he said that by putting that idea of the car that he wants to buy on paper everywhere, he didn't know how he managed to buy that car within the time frame that he gave himself, because he wrote the car, he wrote the name of the car plus the picture and then the date, and somewhere around that timeline that he put for himself, he was able to get that car. And personal experience, after I have read that story, the story from the book I'm telling you about, which is Success is Who You Are, I put that idea to practice in my own life. I wanted to buy a land. So I've seen the land, and there was no money to buy that land at that time, but I need it so urgent. And then I decided to write it down. I posted it in my room in 3 different places, and that fired me up. Everywhere I go, I was remembering that, oh, Joseph, at the end of this year, you are buying that land. I was able to manage my resources. And guess what? By that year, it didn't take me like up to the time that I put for myself to buy that land before I bought it. All because of the fact that I put it on paper. I wrote it down, the dates and everything, just as Pastor Samadeyemi did. I followed that, and it worked for me too. So for the power of imagination to work effectively for us, we must put down that which we want to create, that which we want to make happen. We have to put it on paper. And the next thing, which is number 4, that we must do to make the power of imagination to work effectively in our life, is to plan it. We have to plan for it. We cannot just know what we want and then just write it on paper and forget it. We have to plan strategically as to what to do in order to get that done. For Pastor Adeyemi to buy that car, he didn't just write the car and place the picture everywhere. He planned as to how to get that car at the end of the stipulated time that he has put for himself. Likewise to what I did. As I wrote as I wrote that I want to buy that land, I didn't just stop there. I was making plan as to how to buy that land, and I ended up buying it. So we have to make plan for the power of imagination to work for us. The 5th thing we must do is to take massive action. with the plan that we have written down. Because knowing what you want and writing it down, as well as making plans for it, that plans is not going to go out there and work itself out. Someone has to ignite that plan to work. Someone has to bring that plan to realization, and that can only be done by taking massive action. Nobody is going to come and take that action for you. That action can only be that plan can only be carried out by you. So we need to go all out massively and take action, while believing that there is a higher power that is going to aid us in getting that which we want. Why knowing what we want? Why knowing the fact that we need to write it down and also make plans for it? After taking all the necessary steps, getting down to taking action, we must not be lazing about, hoping that God is going to make it happen for us. So the next thing that we must do while we are taking action is the sixth thing that I want us to know, which is to have positive expectation. While you are taking action, if you don't have positive expectation, you are not going to be fired up. You are not going to have enough energy to pull you out to do all you need to do. So positive expectation is very important. When you are working and you know that, oh, this is sure for me, that like I'm sure that I'm going to get this thing done at the end of the day, you maintain that positive expectation that this thing is going to get done. You will be fueled up to take more action. So while we are taking action, we must maintain positive expectation. So the next thing that we are supposed to do in order to make the power of imagination effective in our life is to continue working until the job is done. We should not stop. While we are taking those tasks, while we are doing the execution, while we are maintaining positive expectations, things might not work as the way we expect them to work, but that should not disappoint us. We must always be strategizing, bringing up new ways. And that is why people that have achieved great things, they will tell you that I tried this, it doesn't work, and I tried it another way, and they tried it, that thing that they were doing, they tried it multiple times before that thing finally worked for them. So while we are trying things out, we are going to experience failure, we are going to experience some kind of downfall, we are going to experience some kind of roadblocks, but we should not allow those roadblocks to be the end of the game for us. We must devise a means, we must devise ways to go around those setbacks, those roadblocks. We must go around them, and that can only be made possible by being determined to not stop until the job is done. So that is how I believe that we should make use of the power of imagination, because that was what God used to create heaven and earth. And just because you and I were created in His image, it must occur to us that we have to create things too. It must occur to us that we were not just created to worship Him until the day that we are to leave the earth, then we die. No, the essence of being here is not just to worship God alone. God created us to create those things that He Himself cannot create. For example, He created the tree. He knows that He has given us the power to create the chair out of the tree. That was why He stopped at creating the tree. So it is the duty of a man to create the chair out of the tree. God is not going to create the chair out of the tree. It is the duty of a man to create the chair out of the tree. And likewise to every other thing that we need to create on earth. So it should never be it should never be registered in your mind that you were created and sent to the world to just worship God and calling Him or be calling Him all sorts of names. Say Olowo Gbogboro, Olowo Short, Olowo this. It's not all about that. There's a place for that. But you should not just live all your life worshiping God. We must leverage the power that He has given us to create things just like Him. He created us as an extension of Himself, as to create things like Him, to invent things. Everything that you and I are using today were created by the power of imagination. The camera, the phone, everything I'm using to record this video were created by a man. But that person that created those things must first of all imagine those things in his mind. That is why they said invention is always created twice. Invention has to be created in our mind first. We have to first of all imagine it and then go all out to create it in the world. So we must know that God created us to create. God did not just create us to worship Him. He's not suffering from low self-esteem for us to be making Him feel good about Himself by praising Him, by worshiping Him alone. There's a place for that. But God is not suffering from low self-esteem. Whether you praise Him or you call Him any name that He wants, He has no concern for that. He's not suffering from low self-esteem for you to make Him feel good by playing bands for Him. You may choose to do that, but we should not do that to the point of forgetting the fact that He created us to create things. He created us to use the power of imagination that He has imbued in us. So that is all I have for us in this very video. Ensure to make use of the power of imagination that God has given you and I, instead of just worshiping Him. If God should create us just to worship Him, He wouldn't have sent us to the world. He would have created us and then allow us to remain with Him in heaven so that we can be waking up and praising Him and worshiping Him. He knows that there is more to our life than just worshiping Him. He knows that there is more to our life than just praising Him. That was why He sent us to the world, to invent things, to create things like Him. And that can be made possible by the power of imagination. And for you to make use of the power of imagination, you must first of all preview those things that you want to create. You must know that you were created to make impact in the world. You must know that you were created to create things in the world, something remarkable. And that was why Apostle Paul told us that in a book of Philippians 4 verse 8, he says that we should fix our thoughts, we should fix our mind on those things that are praiseworthy, those things that are admirable, those things that are of good report, those things that are lovely, that we should fix our mind on those things. And once we deviate from fixing our mind on those things that are praiseworthy, society is going to fill our mind with things that we don't want. And that is why we must always guide our mind, because that is the power source that we have. Like I told you before, our mind was created in such a way that it cannot entertain vacuum. Once you didn't fill up the vacuum in your mind with the goals and the things that you want, society is going to help you fill it up with some nonsense that you don't want. That is when you will be looking for gossip, online gossip. You'll be filling up your mind with them. You'll be filling up your mind with pornography. You will be filling up your mind with the things that are not praiseworthy, things that will not like elevate your life. You'll be filling up your mind with those things if you don't intentionally fix your mind on those things that are praiseworthy, on those things that you want to create. If you don't fix your mind on those things, your mind is going to be deviated into things that are not praiseworthy, into things that are not going to be helpful to you nor helpful to anyone around you. So we must fix our mind on things that we want to create, on things that we want, on things that we want to be remembered for. So that is all I have for us. That is my own perspective regarding the power of imagination. If you have a suggestion or your own perspective is different from what I'm sharing, feel free to share it with us on the comment box. And also, if you want to be part of the self-reliant movement, you can subscribe to the channel and then follow us on WhatsApp channel too. As I told you that we used to share things that will aid us on our movement on WhatsApp channel too. So that is all for now. I'll catch up with you on the next video. Until next time, peace.